bags and we'll take you around the world and back and inspire you to explore. All aboard! Explore calls on you to join the world's greatest railways, where the journey is even better than the destination. If you don't own a mobile phone, if you have a watch you still have to wind, if you like your tea brewed in a pot for a good 5 minutes, then you'll love the pace of this famous train journey to the tea-growing town of Darjeeling at the foothills of the Himalayas. This little engine they call the toy train is one of the last working coal-fired steam engines in the world. With Herculean courage, it climbs the 7,200 feet from the Siliguri Plain to the railway's highest point at Goon, and then descends into Darjeeling at 6,800 feet. The eccentric route loop curves, doubles back, making sure the 88-kilometre journey takes a leisurely 9 hours. From your carriage window, you'll see the wild spread of unruly housing over the hillsides and signs of a hybrid culture, Tibetan, Indian and Nepalese. Beyond the settlements, on a clear day, you can see the western Himalayas rising like dream from the horizon. Whether you catch a glimpse of Everest itself will depend entirely on the whim of the mountain gods. The Darjeeling Himalayan Railway climbs to an altitude of 6,000 metres, but you can breathe easy. The little engine's been making this trek since 1881. It is precisely the high altitude and wet climate of the Himalayan hills that gives Darjeeling tea its delicate flavour and special aroma. Tea grows slowly here and is picked between March to November. The best tips are harvested from the mature bushes. As all tea connoisseurs know, the smaller the leaf, the better the quality. Train lovers all over the world have a huge affection for this mighty little railway, considered an engineering triumph even by today's standards. The little train, called a toy train because of its miniature size, is kept in perfect condition by a team of devoted technicians and even has its own worldwide fan club. The Darjeeling Himalayan Railway Society is an international group based in the UK, boasting 800 members from 24 countries. They come every year to hear the husky whistle and see the steam drift up through the forested hillsides to the high Himalayan plateaus. Now on the World Heritage List, it's not just the locals that want to see this remarkable line roll on into the new century. So whether you're a serious rail enthusiast or just married to one, you must take this historic railway journey at least once in your life. The best time to ride the toy train is from November to May, when it's not too hot or too cool here in the Highlands. Do avoid June through October though, when monsoonal rains are sure to dampen your sense of adventure. If tea parties and miniature railways are not for you and you're looking for a fresh new frontier, then saddle up. There's an exciting new rail route forging an unforgettable path through Canada's Rocky Mountains. The Whistler Mountain Train follows the famous sea-to-sky corridor from Vancouver on the southwestern coast of Canada to high among the snow-capped mountains and old-growth forests of the Rockies. Beginning with a view of the West Coast waters, home to the striking killer whale, past the vigorous water displays of Shannon Falls and Brandywine Falls, and into the rare, rugged Canadian Rockies region, preserved now for more than a century. The region is one of the largest protected areas on the planet. Tourists are drawn here with heroic plans to hunt, fish, canoe and kayak over treacherous waters. But if you think that sounds altogether too perilous, you sound like the perfect passenger for the Whistler Mountain Train. Everyone has the best seat in the house on this comfortable 3-hour journey. The Rocky Mountains stretch more than 4,800 kilometres from northernmost British Columbia in Canada to New Mexico in the United States. Clean, fresh air, clear blue skies, spectacular gorges and prairies stretching as far as the eye can see. There's nothing quite like Canada's breathtaking expanses. The train driver will happily slow down for your photo opportunities, and even the amateur photographer can't help but come away with masterpieces. Be sure to keep an eye out for large mammals like moose and elk. If you're very lucky, you might just catch sight of a grizzly bear fishing by the waters below. And keep an eye on the sky. A popular resident here is the legendary bald eagle, famous for its distinctive white head. This silent silver bullet through the Rockies has been the only thing to disturb this wilderness and its unique flora and fauna in over 100 years. Yes, you could kayak down the savage rivers, climb rocks, wrestle bears and swim with killer whales, but if you've got nothing to prove, then take it easy on the Canadian Whistler Mountain Train, enjoying the afternoon tea served by the friendly staff who must have one of the best jobs in the world. This is 5-star quality train travel, which allows you to sit back, chat with fellow travellers and watch the great Canadian wilderness roll by. You'll need to take Canadian dollars with you, and do remember to take plenty of film for your camera. It's impossible to take a bad photo of this photogenic paradise. From toy trains to high-tech trains, we love them all. But perhaps the one we're most passionate about is the train lovingly brought out of retirement to run again, bigger and better than ever. It's an historic moment for the Kenyan Railways as the world's largest and heaviest steam locomotive is unveiled, back in full service after 20 years on the scrap heap. This powerful train, called Mount Galai, was named after one of the highest peaks in East Africa. Local steam train specialists, long thought redundant, were surprised to get the call to resurrect the rusty hulk. Working together on the 3-month renovation was a difficult labour of love. But when the steam team heard the unmistakable chug-chug of the engine, a sound that delights rail lovers the world over, and when they saw the first puff of steam rise again from the old girl, they knew they'd made it. And it was all worth it. Mount Galai is Kenya's first safari steam train, a brilliant idea that Kenyans hope will bring a whole new world of travellers to the region. So if you want the real Africa without the flies, the heat and the bumpy jeep ride, grab a ticket and climb aboard the safari train. You'll see wild elephants roaming in migrating family groups, and you'll be relieved to be on the train among these buffalo, reputed to be the most dangerous animals to humans in the area. Gazelles, impala and other beautiful species of African antelope graze along the Mombasa-Voi rail line, unaware of the train's historic run. Special care was taken to fully repaint the Loco in the correct East African rail colour of maroon, and there's been much polishing of her brass and copper piping. The locals are so proud of their new living exhibit that they've even stopped wiping their shoes on the railway lines, which, after the rains, creates the dangerous situation of mud on the tracks. Mount Galai hauls 6 third-class day coaches with restaurant and buffet cars. And if you ask nicely, you can even visit the cab of the Loco to see what all the fuss is about, and maybe meet one of the passionate steam team themselves. The team like to celebrate a successful run with a slap on the back, and later the roasting of a good-sized goat. You too can join in the celebrations when you visit the home of Kenyan's new safari train. Take a few choice words of Swahili and you'll be made to feel right at home. As a 10-year-old girl or boy, did you dream of running a train station and driving a train? Could you have imagined a place where children could take the controls and set the world of their imaginations into galloping motion? Well, that place is here, Budapest, Hungary, here at the Children's Railway. Budapest's Children's Railway is the world's only full-size railway operated almost entirely by children aged 10 to 14. While the engines are driven by adult engineers, it's the children who operate the switches and signals, print tickets and keep passengers informed, and they do this all on their own. The railway is an 11-kilometre long line through the woods of the Buda site of Budapest. The train stops at 8 forest stations and the entire journey takes 50 minutes. People are nostalgic for the age of steam. Older Europeans can perhaps remember in the distant past the sounds and sensations of this romantic time. But for these young ones, the magic is happening for the first time. A word of warning, please resist the temptation to avoid paying for your ticket. These young workers are very serious about their work. Each one has been hand-picked to help on the railway, with only the most professional and most passionate passing the test. This inspiring experience attracts 400,000 passengers a year who want to see the children-run railway for themselves. The railway operates from September to March, running from 9 o'clock in the morning to 5 in the winter and to 7 o'clock in the warmer summer months. So, is the Budapest Children's Railway the greatest working train set in the world? Why don't you come and find out? You'll be buying your train ticket with the Hungarian currency, the forint. And remember to bring a childlike sense of play to this playground of trains. If you're a serious rail fan that eats and sleeps locomotives, then why don't you? Eat and sleep on the train, that is. Try the slower pace of 4 days on the classic Rocky Mountaineer. This popular trans-Canadian rail adventure has been a bestseller for 17 years, having carried over 800,000 guests through the dramatic and diverse landscape of Canada's West. This state-of-the-art train travel experience offers the best possible vantage point for travellers who don't want to miss a thing. The transparent domed carriages present a panoramic view from horizon to horizon. Not just an observer, you'll feel a part of the very landscape itself. You'll travel over 450 kilometres a day in an undulating course designed to unravel you too, in the nicest possible way. The greatest advantage of rail is travelling through areas not accessible by foot, car or motor coach. It also means you have ample legroom to stretch and move freely throughout the coach to socialise and share your impressions of this breathtaking landscape with other like-minded travellers. The line operates between April and October, and every season offers its unique adventure. June, however, is springtime in the Rockies, with snow on the mountains and flowers beginning to bloom across the expansive prairies. This array of colour occurs once a year over land that is erstwhile covered in a white sheet of snow. Still an awesome sight if you choose to travel in winter. You'll pass through countryside made historic by British Columbia's early gold rush, which eclipsed the flourishing fur trade of the time and led Britain to claim the area as a British colony. You'll sense the strong seasonal rhythms here as you pass over rivers teeming with salmon, turtles, beaver and otters, and catch sight of the flocks of migrating geese above you. In spring, you'll observe the rivers turning into rapid whitewater full of speed and turbulence and driving toward impossible falls. From the Rocky Mountaineer, Canada's wilderness is no longer an impenetrable and foreign boundary, but a place of leisure, relaxation, and even personal discovery, where you can take the time to reflect and enjoy the company of close companions in what has been described as paradise. Lewis and Clark did it a lot harder here than you will on the Rocky Mountaineer. You can still imagine the past lives of the mountain men, hunting, trapping and surviving by their wits in the hostile conditions, from the comfort of your spacious travelling armchair, that is. Experience the peak season, springtime in the Rockies. But if you do come in summer, don't forget to bring a bathing costume. You may be surprised by the temperate waters. Shangri-La, a romantic name from the past, but can you get there overland by train? Close to 1 million tourists, mostly Chinese, visit Tibet each year, lured by the magical legend of the famed Shangri-La. China's new rail from Beijing to Tibet's capital of Lhasa, covering 2,500 miles, is more than just a line. It's a bridge between two disparate cultures living closely together. The trip to the roof of the world takes a little over 47 hours. The Beijing Tibetan Railway is the world's highest railway. Some 960 kilometres of its tracks are located 4,000 metres above sea level over frozen earth. The new rail is higher than the Peruvian railway in the Andes, which was formerly the world's most elevated track. Even though the cabins are pressurised, you may want to avail yourself of the complimentary oxygen provided. Running so high across the Tibetan plateau can be uncomfortable, and train travellers are warned to avoid sudden movements that may trigger altitude sickness. It's hoped the line will not only bring a new flow of tourists to Tibet, but will open up a greater level of trade between the exciting province and China. So much of China is almost uninhabitable that, despite its size, around 90% of people are squeezed into half the area. Overcrowding in the cities means a vacation to the beautiful province of Tibet, with its different customs, language and dress, holds a deep fascination for the Chinese, and everyone else for that matter. Lhasa, the capital of Tibet, is 11,976 metres above sea level, so it may take time to adjust to the noticeably thin air. Tibetan weather is not as harsh as many people imagine. It's best to travel from April to the beginning of November, the best months being August and September. So can you get to Shangri-La at the roof of the world by train? You can now. In the past, the only route between China and Tibet was by air. Now you can take the slow train from China, watching the landscape transform from China's rolling mountains and arid basins to the rugged, mystical beauty of Tibet. If you're looking for a rail experience that sums it all up, the glamour, the formality, the nostalgia of the bygone era of steam travel, then don your heavy Cossack coat for a trip on the Trans-Siberian Railway. The Golden Eagle, often carrying international royalty and the Russian elite, is given an illustrious send-off as it departs Moscow. This is the archetypal Russian experience, that is if you can afford it. This is a 2-week journey back in time, through vast pine forests, over the Ural Mountains and across the Siberian tundra to the Pacific Ocean. The trip covers 9,300 kilometres from Moscow to Vladivostok in one of the longest train journeys in the world. Passengers have an ensuite bathroom, underfloor heating and plasma screen TVs in every cabin. The train stops for 30 minutes every 3 or 4 hours so that everyone can get off and stretch their legs. It's also a great opportunity to try the local food being sold on the platforms. A highlight is the smoked fish you can get at the welcoming station of Slyubyanka. Do seize the opportunity to ride across Siberia to the Russian city of Vladivostok, which has only been open to tourists since 1997. You'll need plenty of Russian rubles to ride this luxury train and to buy the delicious smoked fish available on the station platforms. It's your stop. See you next time when we welcome you aboard again on Explore.